We have something that I hope is special for you, because as I sat across from Tennessee Williams when he read what you're about to see on tape, it was very special for me. Tennessee Williams has been greatly influenced by a man named, a great poet named
Yes.
Hart Crane. And here is Tennessee in a pre-recorded interview reading some Hart Crane. Let's go to that right now, and then we'll come back and talk a little more.
Good.
And Tennessee, a man who influenced you profoundly is an American poet named Hart Crane. You have, if I understand it correctly, indicated in your will that you wish to be buried at sea in a manner that would
Place my bones close to the bones, the submerged bones of Hart Crane.
tell us why and what he meant to you.
Hart Crane's life was very similar to mine. He had a very worldly father. His father was involved in the manufacture of candy, mine in shoes. And we had very similar backgrounds. He was overly devoted to his mother, as I was to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we both wrote out of an intense personal need.
Was he also homosexual?
Yes, he was indeed. And he made absolutely no disguise of the fact. And he shocked people a great deal.
Must have brought a lot
time.
of pain into his life at that point.
Whether it did or not, he didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
He drank heavily, unfortunately. But I don't think he gave a damn whether he shocked people. And I've never cared whether I shock people, because I think people who are shocked by the truth are not deserving of the truth. And the truth is something one has to deserve.
I wonder if you could take a moment and perhaps read, talk about
or
Hart,
read,
or
Crane.
yes, read.
I'd rather read him
Well,
than talk
we
about it.
just happen to have a
It may
paperback
be-
copy of Hart Crane here on the table.
Yeah, which I asked for.
No, you
Just
didn't.
admit that I asked for.
It's not normally there.
Yeah. It should be. You should always have it near you.
Well, we can
Yeah.
make the adjustment.
I'll find one for you.
Thank you.
Now, this is not one of his poems that is most critically acclaimed, but it's one of the most moving ones.
These are your reading glasses now.
I hope I've got, these are my reading glasses.
I wanted to check. I wasn't sure.
You're quite right. I had on my TV watching glasses. All right, this is called Indiana. The morning glory climbing the morning long over the lintel on its wiry vine closes before the dusk, furls in its song as I close mine, and bison thunder rends my dreams no more, as once my womb was torn, my boy, when you yielded your first cry at the prairie's door. Your father knew then, though we'd buried him behind us far back on the gold trail. Then his lost bones stirred, but you, who dropped the scythe to grasp the oar, knew not nor heard how we two prodigal once rode off to wave Seminary Hill a gay goodbye. We found God a lavish lie there in Colorado, yes, passing sly. The pebbles sang, the fire cat slunk away, and glistening through the sluggard freshets came in golden syllables, loose from the clay his gleaming name. A dream called El Dorado was his town. It rose up shambling in the nugget's wake. It had no charter but a promised crown of claims to stake. We, too late, too early, howsoever, were nothing out of 59 those years, but gilded promise, yielded to us never, and barren tears. The long trail back I huddled in the shade of wagon tenting, looked out once and saw bent westward, passing on a stumbling jade, a homeless squaw, perhaps a half-breed. On her slender back, she cradled a babe's body, riding without rein. Her eyes, strange for an Indian's, were not black but sharp with pain, and like twin stars, they seemed to shun the gaze of all our silent men, the long team line, until she saw me, when their violet haze lit with love shine. I held you up. I suddenly, the bolder, knew that mere words could not have brought us nearer. She nodded, and that smile across her shoulder will still endear her. As long as Jim, your father's memory, is warm. Yes, Larry, now you're going to see. Remember, you were the first. Before Ned in this farm, firstborn, remember. And since then, all that's left to me of Jim, whose folks like mine came out of Arrowhead, and you're the only one with eyes like him, Kentucky bred. Oh, I'm standing still. I'm old. I'm half of stone. Oh, hold me in those eyes engaging blue. There's where the stubborn years gleam and atone where gold is true. Down the dim turnpike to the river's edge. Perhaps I'll hear the mare's hoofs to the ford. Right me from real. And you'll keep your pledge. I know your word. Come back to Indiana, not too late. Or will you be a ranger to the end? Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh, I shall always wait you, Larry, traveler, stranger, son, my friend.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, as you sat there reading this with your great love and respect for this man who's influenced you so much, Hart Crane, what were the feelings going through you just as you were doing that?
I felt he was a man that I could almost identify with, you know? And I feel very close to him. And that's why I made this codicil to my will, that I want my bones placed where his are. I don't like earth burial anyway.
I want to ask one other thing, as long as you are talking about that. How do you want to be remembered as the man who has given us all this great theater, all these incredible characters, all these insights into ourselves? How do you want people to look back and remember Tennessee Williams?
I haven't given that much thought. I hope they'll remember me favorably for some things. I don't know how long literature or theater or any of the arts are going to endure, because I think we're heading into, I hope avoidably, but one isn't sure avoidably, I think we're heading into another nuclear holocaust. Because the nuclear, what do you call them, radioactors are being traded now to the smaller countries. And I heard some good political savant saying last night that probably the first nuclear blast would come from the smaller countries.
Well, I have a proposal, if that is the case. I think we get everything that this man has ever written, put it on microfilm, and bury it, because it must endure. I thank you very much, Tennessee Williams. It's been a great pleasure for us.
It's always fun to talk.
Thank you. Our guest is Mr. Tennessee Williams. And Tennessee, in reading your memoirs recently published, something struck me very profoundly. Many things in it did, but one thing that really got to me was this fact, and that is at the age of 23, you had a heart attack.
Well, I've had an injured heart since the age of 8. I had an illness diagnosed by a small-town Mississippi doctor as diphtheria. But it was complicated, and it went on for about a year. I think I nearly died of it. And my mother claims that my legs were paralyzed. I don't know how much of that is factual or whether I was just very weakened.
But the thing that came to my mind is I thought of myself when I was that age, 23, and the heart, such a symbol of strength, almost the internal power that guides us through life. How did that affect your view of yourself as the years passed?
Well, of course, at the age of 8, I wasn't aware that my heart was
But
damaged.
at 23, when you had the heart attack.
The heart attack. Well, I think I would have to refer to my memoirs to tell you precisely how that happened. My girlfriend, my childhood sweetheart Hazel, got married and at the University of Wisconsin, and that disturbed me very much. And instead of just writing on weekends, I began to drink a lot of black coffee at night.
A lot,
Which does accelerate the heart,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the heart is overly sensitized. And one night I was writing away with 2 or 3 cups of black coffee in me, and I worked out very hard at the YMCA that afternoon. I was running the track, and swimming, and during the day I had arduous duties at the shoe company. I would carry packing cases of shoes from international shoe company J.C. Penney. They were so heavy that I would have to set them down every few steps. Well,
were you planning a career in the shoe business at that point?
It was being planned for me.
You, as you were trying to get out of it.
I wasn't planning it. I did everything possible to get myself fired. But my boss, he'd gotten his job through my father's influence, and so he couldn't fire me. I would even get orders for several $100,000 worth of shoes from J.C. Penney and just forget to turn in the orders. And several weeks would pass, and Mother would produce these orders from my suit pocket. Said, "Son, aren't these important?" I said, "Oh, my Lord, I forgot to turn them in."
Do you think that in any way led to the heart
They couldn't
attack?
find me. Well, no, but the carrying the packing cases and then Hazel's sudden marriage and all that affected it. And suddenly, I was writing this short story, one of my most mature short stories called "The Accent of a Coming Foot." It's a quote from Emily Dickinson, I believe. And as I was writing, I was approaching a climax in the play, and I began to feel this thump, thump.
What did you think then?
Scared me. And I said, "What is this?" I'd never felt it before. And I got up, and I went out the fire escape, went out the back alley, and instead of doing the sensible thing and lying down and resting, I walked as fast as I could. It was in the month of March, I remember. And the trees were just beginning to bud in St. Louis. I must have walked 4 miles with my heart accelerating all the time, pumping, coming faster, with skipped beats, And it really terrified me. Terror of death is a strange thing. I'm not sure it's terror.
You have had some brushes with death. There was a period in the 40s, as you write in the book, that you felt that you were going to die. I don't remember what year it was.
Oh, yes.
What did you think would happen to you if you died? Do you have any sense of...
Just that there would be the final blackout, I suppose,
Just like going
the
to sleep.
consciousness would cease altogether.
How has this influenced your creative output, the times you've been close to death and seen yourself near the
Well,
black.
later on, when I felt that I was dying, it was a stimulant to my creative output. I thought I have a very short time to live, and I better get my work done. And I worked harder and faster.
As you sit here now, how do you feel about the future? You seem to be a very vital man, and yet, if one
I
reads a
don't
book...
worry about my heart very much anymore.
What are you worrying about, if anything?
Worrying about? Well, I know that I rather take it for granted that I won't live through a year as strenuous as this one. Should I say that?
Surely, you should say whatever you think.
That sounds so pity. I very likely to do it, though, because I have a tremendous resilience, you see.
You do, and you also have a tremendous will, although you write again
I don't
that
want
your
to
will
die.
is eroded.
No, my will is not eroded.
Your will is not eroded. You don't. You have the will that you always had.
Yes, and I've always thought that as long as I have some project of importance to me, like the Red Devil Battery sign in Vienna, I will make that scene. I'll get through it.
So your work is drawing you in.
Yes, I live for my work.
You have difficulty sleeping. A lot of people have
Last night I had terrible difficulty sleeping.
Last night, what made it difficult for you to sleep? Why?
Well, I was disturbed, emotionally disturbed, not over my heart or anything like that. I rarely think about my heart anymore. I was just emotionally disturbed because, I can't go into it without involving other personalities, which I just don't wish to involve.
But even at the age of 61, with the accumulated wisdom of a lifetime and the enormous insights that you've had into living and loving, Tennessee Williams can still lose a night's sleep because of emotional involvement.
Yes, of course. Yes. If I lost emotional involvement, I wouldn't have much to write about. There would be much point in writing.
In the memoirs, you speak of the many relationships, not all, but of many relationships you've had with men.
I haven't had, by any means, the number of relationships. I'm not what they call a numbers person.
Mm-hmm.
I want deep, in-depth relationships. You could call them romantic relationships. But I don't care about the numbers.
No. But have you come to understand why that's such a strong want in yourself? Why it's such
loneliness. I don't like being alone. As I said to Dick Cavett in New Orleans, I can sleep alone, but I hate eating alone.
And yet, your best work, your best writing has come
Drinking.
from Tennessee Williams alone.
Oh, that. You're not alone. You're with your characters, with the people you're creating. And they are very good company. Very
Indeed, they are.
Company to
They've
you
been
while you're working on them. I mean.
Yeah, they've been good company for millions of people for many years, as they have been entertained by them.
Yeah.
Let's take another break, and we'll
Yeah.
continue after this.
Alan Zweibel, original Saturday Night Live writer and Thurber Prize-winning author of The Other Showman, says, "The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog is so smart, witty, and inventive that I had to keep reminding myself that I didn't write it.